In 2020, Forrester, the market research company, named only two companies as leaders in their study of location intelligence platforms. And today, I have the pleasure of speaking with the CEO of one of those companies, Josh Rogers from Precisely. Josh has taken the company through enormous transition over the past 2 years, first with the uniting of SyncSort with Pitney Bowes Software, and more recently with the acquisitions of Windshuttle and Infogix to create one of the few global companies capable of handling the deluge of data that companies face as they make their transition to digital, but also with leveraging the power of location technology. I hope you'll join me for this inaugural episode of On Point with Karen. Great. Well, thanks, Josh, again for doing this. I really appreciate your time. I just want to start off by talking more about some of the history of Precisely, and we'll get to some of the location technology issues later. But perhaps you can start by just really enlightening listeners to the podcast about just how much the world's transactions still run on IBM mainframes, which is where some of the company's history runs. So maybe just go over that a little bit before we get to location tech.
Yeah, sure. So thanks again for having me. It's great to be on with you today, and certainly Prim's a wonderful partner. So happy to be here. Yes, I think there is generally in the marketplace a little bit of a lack of understanding of how prevalent the mainframe and IBM, which you can think of as almost a downscale mainframe platforms are today. They are core transactional platforms in virtually every banking institution in the world, healthcare, telco, most of the federal government still run mainframe computers, and they power. I like to say that these systems, they really do power the global economy. Every time you swipe your credit card, every time that you make a cell phone call, you are doing a transaction with the mainframe system, and they're incredibly reliable. IBM continues to invest in the platform. And they also tend to generate, most of the kind of critical data assets for some of the largest companies in the world.
Yeah, I was surprised at just how much, IBM is still at the forefront of a lot of the data transactions, and it just really caught my attention. Just turning to some of the things the company's been involved with lately. I mean, you've really taken the company through a bunch of acquisitions. There's been a lot of transition and taking on new equity partners as an example. Maybe just take me through the strategy a little bit on how you've been able to integrate Pitney Bowes Software, Infogix, Windshuttle, to build the company around the focus of data integrity.
Yeah, sure. So just a little bit of background on me. I started my career in technology at IBM. I worked at a couple of other software companies, and then joined a business called SyncSort at the time about 12 years ago. And SyncSort was a leader in the data integration space, and it had a particular capability around integrating data and manipulating data in mainframe environments, and then moving that data into data warehouses when I first got there, and then later big data and cloud environments. And so you could think of us originally as a bit of a specialized data integration company. In 2016, we acquired the Trillium business out of Hart Hanks, and that kind of got us into the data quality space. And so now we were not only integrating data from these transactional systems, but also helping our customers understand that data and improve the quality of that data. And in 2019, we acquired the software and data business of Pitney Bowes, which increased our capabilities and market share in the core data quality space, but also added the incredibly important capabilities around data enrichment and location intelligence. And so at that point, we took a step back and wanted to think about, how would we best describe this breadth of capability to the marketplace, to our customers, and what we decided was that first thing was it was the right time to change the name of the company, and so we changed the name to Precisely. Was really pleased at our ability to land on a name that was a word, and a name that I think speaks about our ability to provide precision for customer in their data assets. And that precision, we believe, leads to trust, and we believe that that trust leads to more confident and better decisions. And then the second decision we made was that we needed a better way to talk about the market that we're in. If you look at the analysts, they tend to take this market of technology that sits between source systems and analytic systems, and they splice it into a bunch of pretty technical sub-segments: data integration, data profiling, data quality, master data management, metadata management, data governance, data preparation, like on and on. And nobody, in my opinion, really cares or understands all the distinctions between the two. And so what we wanted to do was to articulate that we believe that's one market, that we believe that that market is really about a customer outcome rather than a technical articulation of an architecture, and that that outcome that customers want is they want trusted data. They want the right data set that has the right accuracy and context for them to be able to make a business decision. And so you can think about all those subsegments as really one big market. It's about $10 billion. It's growing about 11% a year. And that, Precisely is the leader of that market. We have a unique set of capabilities to help customers on their journey to data integrity. And that's, that phrase, data integrity, is what we choose to call that market. And we think that that is an incredibly appropriate name. And we think what's going to happen in the coming quarters and years is that other the analyst firms and other competitors are going to also recognize that, hey, this is one market. And while you could come up with different names for it, data integrity is frankly probably the best name you can come up with. IDC already uses that, and we think that adoption and that articulation of the market will grow over time, because it just makes too much sense not to.
Yeah, I wanted to pick up on that just for a second, because it is a unique positioning in the market, and yes, IDC is recognized, but there's no magic quadrant for data integrity, and the trust in data tagline, I think, probably resonates more than anything else these days. And I'm curious as to your opinion, because there are issues regarding not just data quality, but cybersecurity and the problems with people being hacked. So the trust in data tagline seems to fit in this era. Would you agree? Or
yeah, I think that's what customers are searching for, and that's why we use it. What we have seen is we've seen other competitors start to use that as well. Talon actually uses trust a lot in their messaging. They came out with the trust score, and I expect that we'll see others like Informatica start to use that phrasing as well, and that's good. I think we all participate in the same market. I think we have different value propositions, and frankly, I think Precisely is the broadest, in that not only can we help you integrate data and clean it up, but we can add location and additional context to actual data products. And we think ultimately that's what customers are looking for, because that's what they're actually doing right now. They're knitting that together from a bunch of different providers, but we think over time they'll be looking to one provider.
so, much of the core location technology business Precisely is built around precision geocoding, address validation, address management. Is it challenging to educate the businesses as to the importance of clean customer data? Location is fundamental. We all carry around these, funny instruments that broadcast location all the time. How much of a challenge is it to educate customers that you've got a fundamental piece of data? You just need to bring it out a little bit more and recognize it as a valid investment.
So I don't think it's a challenge to educate them on the benefit of that. I think that they're all searching for that. I think that the challenge is to articulate and educate them on what's possible. I don't think that organizations today understand what they can do in terms of adding context to their data and leveraging location. What we're seeing is, and the pandemic was certainly helped accelerate this, is that there is absolutely a recognition that location is becoming more and more important in a wider variety of use cases. And what I think firms are trying to figure out is, how can they add that context in a reliable way? And where we see customers falling down is that they don't know what data is available they can purchase. When they do purchase it, they don't know how to bring that together and connect it with their firm-generated assets, or they don't know how to scale that infrastructure to the volumes of transactions that they have. And that's where I think Precisely has unparalleled kind of expertise and capabilities, and certainly when partnered with yourselves, can solve problems that frankly no one else can solve.
Yeah, I want to get to that question in a bit about these other companies that are tackling cloud native issues. But I first wanted to ask you about, the location technology business has really been in transition. We've gone from a core desktop model like MapInfo Pro, which is now coming up with a new release with a lot of added capabilities that I've had a chance to look at. But is it eventually going to be that you're going to eventually go to entirely cloud native? Because there is so much functionality in these desktop products, yet people want it to consume their analytics in a different way, like a SaaS technology.
Yeah, so I think it does go cloud native. I think it is interesting. I would say it's from a GIS and a desktop perspective, it's kind of going the opposite direction of data prep. If you look at what's happened in data integration, you used to have, hey, I build ETL jobs, extract, transform, and load, and I'm a developer and I work in the data warehouse, and you tell me the kind of pipeline of data that you want created, and I will build that for you eventually when I get through my backlog. And then what you saw over the last 5 to 8 years is this rise of data prep tools. And what data prep tools were they were allowing analysts to really build their own data pipelines. I think on the location intelligence side, you've had a bit the opposite. You've had a lot of analysts that have been able to do desktop-based analysis. And now what people are trying to do is say, well, how do I build that into my core process, leveraging that location intelligence? And so they're looking at, how do I do, kind of large scale geocoding and enrichment in line with my core business process, and that's something that we're seeing a huge growth in, is the ability to do that, either on a server or more likely, in a cloud environment and in real time. And we think that that's actually one of the fastest growing parts of our business this year. And we think customers are waking up to, wow, this can be done. It can be done in real time, and it can be done at scale because of some of the innovations that we've seen in cloud providers.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing both at Carem. I mean, we are seeing an uptick in the desktop business, but also with companies who are needing this, expertise into developing a workflow, developing their models. And it's not easy. Location data is not always easy, and we're happy to be in a good position to support the Precisely products. So the company has also developed a number of partnerships in that cloud technology business, the relationship with Databricks and Snowflake. How are you positioning those partnerships with respect to Precisely's overall data integrity suite, and where they fit into the IT stack?
Yeah, I mean, look, they're both businesses, both Snowflake and Databricks are pretty phenomenal success stories, and they're still early in their journey. I think if you take the most recent round that Databricks raised of $1 billion,
Yeah.
Nearly $40 billion valuation, you take the $70+ billion valuation of Snowflake, and you add those together, you get $100 billion of enterprise value on what's probably a little less than $1 billion of revenue today. And so it's obviously the market sees these as the future of kind of data, sees these folks, these two firms, as cornerstones for data management going forward. Well, fundamentally, if you think about what those infrastructures offer, is they allow you to store and manipulate data and query data. And so we view them as natural partners for us, because what they really need is they need high quality, trusted data in those environments. And so what we believe happens over the next 10 years, 15 years, is that all of those capabilities and disciplines that had grown up inside the kind of highly structured and fairly expensive data warehouse around data quality and data profiling and data integration and geolocation are going to need to be applied in Databricks and Snowflake. And so our strategy is to build very specific features into our products that allow customers to run these various data engines, whether that be I'm trying to deduplicate a set of data, or I'm trying to enrich a set of data, or I'm trying to add location and geocode a set of data, to be able to do that natively inside of a Snowflake or a Databricks environment. And we think that customers will see a lot of value there. We're already seeing customers take advantage of those integrations, and we're just at the beginning of what we can offer.
And let me take another different part of the business, which is you're actually also a data company. And that's unusual to have a company that both is in the software and the data business. And so there are others also getting into this business, surprisingly, the Amazons and Snowflake, both standing up data marketplaces. How do you see Precisely positioning itself during this rise of the data marketplaces? Everybody's got one. So what do you think the positioning is there?
Sure. I mean, I think, first of all, we're in both marketplaces and have been for, depending on the vendor, somewhere between a year and 3 years. And so we view that as another route to market. We believe that there's a lot of opportunity to reach customers through those marketplaces. We're seeing kind of rising demand there. And the other thing I'd say is I don't see Amazon and Snowflake getting into the data business in that they're building data assets. I think what they're looking to do is to give their customers choice and an ability to kind of achieve that trusted data. And so they're going to data providers and saying, hey, would you be willing to provide data in our marketplace? And they believe that that'll drive, not only new customers to their platform, but increase usage among their existing customers. And I think they're probably right. And so we participate in those marketplaces, and we'll continue to invest there.
Yeah, I see that too. And one of the things that maybe as kind of a last question here is you're bringing the capabilities together for location analytics, and then you're providing the data as well. That's still got to be a challenge for some companies that are just getting into this business. Are you finding that they need a little hand holding as they go through this process? Like they need a little data, they need a little software, and maybe, again, just to kind of wrap it up is kind of give me a vision of how that all plays out for Precisely and bringing those two forces together for clients.
Yeah. Well, look, I think that I talked earlier about customers understanding what's possible with their data, and in particular in terms of how they can leverage location and enrichment to drive better decisions ultimately. And you made the point that location data is really challenging, right? It is a different type of data. It's a different discipline to be able to leverage that, and in particular to be able to integrate that with firm-generated data. And so what we're trying to do is, by offering both software and data, make that easier. And we're building both features and a core strategy in terms of resource investment to continue to make that easier with things like the Precisely ID. But core to that is to make sure that our products, both on the data side and the software side, are being delivered to customers through firms like Kerim, where you've got unparalleled expertise around not only how to make those things work together in the customer's environment, but also how to help a customer shape a use case for the business outcome that they are looking to achieve, and then how to break that down into a set of deliverables that will actually achieve that outcome. And frankly, that's not the space that we're trying to specialize in. We want to be able to provide those products, and we're looking for folks with the expertise that you have to be able to kind of craft that solution for end customers. So I think the Kerim relationship is, as you know, having a record year, and we expect that 22 is going to be even better. So it's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for having me.
You bet. And we certainly appreciate the partnership with Precisely. And again, thanks very much for taking the time to do this. Very much appreciated. And I think it'll be a great discussion for people to get a deeper appreciation of Precisely.
Thanks so much. Have a great day.
Okay. Thanks, Josh.
Take care.
Thanks again for joining us on another On Point with Kerim. And don't forget to subscribe where this podcast is posted, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. And if you like today's podcast, please leave a comment in the comment box. Join us again for another episode of On Point with Kerim, where we'll get on point.